On August 6, 1945, the world changed forever. The American B-29 bomber Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb nicknamed Little Boy on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. In an instant, over 70,000 people were killed. Tens of thousands more would die in the days, weeks, and years that followed. But while history remembers the scale, the military strategy, and the politics, John Hersey did something radically different. He told the human story. In today's video essay, we'll explore the background of the Hiroshima bombing, the decisions that led to it, and the powerful legacy of Hersey's 1946 masterpiece, Hiroshima, a book that changed journalism, literature, and perhaps even the world. To understand Hiroshima, we need to understand the context in which it happened. By mid-1945, World War II had dragged on for 6 brutal years. Germany had surrendered in May, but Japan fought on. Fierce resistance continued, even as US forces island hopped closer to the Japanese mainland. The Pacific theater had been devastating. Battles like Iwo Jima and Okinawa saw staggering casualties, and Japan showed no signs of unconditional surrender. Meanwhile, in secret, the United States had been developing a weapon unlike any the world had ever seen: the atomic bomb. The Manhattan Project brought together some of the world's most brilliant scientists in Los Alamos, New Mexico, and in July 1945, they tested the first successful nuclear device, the Trinity test. With the war dragging on and the planned invasion of Japan estimated to cost hundreds of thousands of Allied lives, President Truman gave the order. On August 6, 1945, Hiroshima was targeted. It was a city of military importance, but also a city of children, of shopkeepers, doctors, and teachers. A year later, 1946, the New Yorker did something unprecedented. An entire issue, nearly 30,000 words, was dedicated to a single piece of journalism, Hiroshima, by John Hersey. Hersey, a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and former war correspondent, had traveled to Japan to tell the story of what had happened on the ground. Not from the perspective of politicians or generals, but from 6 ordinary people who lived through it. Rather than focus on geopolitics or military theory, Hersey zeroed in on survival. But he didn't choose 6 survivors at random. Each individual brings a different social background, profession, and perspective, allowing the reader to see the bombing not as a single event, but as a multifaceted human catastrophe. Through the book, we are introduced to these 6 individuals. Miss Toshiko Sasaki, a young office clerk, becomes a symbol of physical vulnerability. Her injury, being crushed under a bookcase, leaves her incapacitated, and through her we see long-term suffering, shame, and the limited support for injured women in post-war Japan. Dr. Masakazu Fuji, a well-off physician, offers insight into the destruction of status and personal loss. His clinic collapses, his professional identity is shattered, and his arc later veers into quiet tragedy, reflecting the psychological toll. Mrs. Hatsuyo Nakamura, a widow with 3 children, represents the struggle of ordinary civilians, especially mothers, who must protect their families amid chaos and radioactive uncertainty. Father Wilhelm Kleinsorg, a German Jesuit priest living in Hiroshima, provides an outsider's spiritual and moral lens. His persistence in helping others, even as his own health declines, raises quiet questions about duty, faith, and purpose. Dr. Terafumi Sasaki, a young surgeon at the Red Cross Hospital, embodies the overwhelmed medical response. He works tirelessly in impossible conditions, showing both the heroism and the hopelessness of disaster medicine. Reverend Kiyoshi Tanimoto, a Methodist minister, is perhaps the most philosophical of the group. His guilt for surviving, his commitment to peace, and his later activism against nuclear weapons make him a bridge between immediate tragedy and long-term conscience. Together, these 6 lives from a cross-section of Hiroshima's civilian population, men and women, young and old, secular and religious, rich and poor. Hersey's brilliance lies in letting their quiet testimonies speak for themselves, without judgment or dramatization. It is this mosaic of experience that gives Hiroshima its enduring emotional and moral weight. In calm, simple prose, Hersey describes the moment the bomb hit, not with fiery adjectives or sensationalism, but with quiet, factual observation. That was the genius, and that was the horror. Of course, many books have been written about Hiroshima, many documentaries have shown the destruction, but John Hersey's work remains unique because it doesn't show us Hiroshima as a target, it shows us a city full of people. His decision to write it in plain, unembellished style, almost clinical, heightens the emotional impact. There's no judgment, no politics, no blame, just humanity. What Hersey did was take journalism and infuse it with literary sensibility. He blurred the line between fact and literature. Hiroshima reads like a novel, but every word is real. At a time when Americans largely saw the bomb as a justified end to a brutal war, Hersey forced readers to confront the faces of the people on the other side of that flash of light. The impact was immediate and profound. When the article appeared in the New Yorker, people were stunned. Albert Einstein ordered 1,000 copies. The US Army was reportedly displeased. The article was quickly published as a book, and Hersey became a household name. But more importantly, Hiroshima helped shift the public conversation. It didn't argue for or against the bomb. It didn't offer solutions or call for vengeance. It simply said, "Look what happened." Over time, the book became required reading in classrooms. It remains one of the most powerful anti-war texts, not because it preaches, but because it witnesses. Today, nearly 80 years after the bombing of Hiroshima, we still live under the shadow of nuclear weapons. The questions raised in 1945 haven't gone away. If anything, they've grown more urgent. John Hersey's Hiroshima is a reminder that war is not just a matter of strategy and statecraft, it is about human lives. His book forces us to listen to those who lived through the unimaginable, and in doing so, it teaches empathy in the face of history's most destructive moment. So if you haven't read Hiroshima, you should. Not just as a piece of history or journalism or literature, but as a moral document. It's not long, but it stays with you forever. So what are your thoughts on Hiroshima by John Hersey? Have you read it? Or do you plan to? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this video valuable, consider liking and subscribing for more thoughtful book essays and historical deep dives. Thank you for watching.